Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire, and welcome to the very first episode of this new series, the Blackbird Diaries, where we're going to be taking a little bit more of a personal approach. Now, before we get started, I want to give my thanks to Brandy Young, 629 on YouTube. She actually was the jumping off point and the inspiration for the creation of this entire series. She had asked me to elaborate on my personal approach to rituals. She was just kind of interested. And once I got to thinking about that, I got to thinking about, I'm going to be needing a Friday series to replace Wicca 303 once it's done. And I've been going through a lot of different options about what that might be. And then I realized, so often I'm really speaking in a more generalized kind of way. Here's a variety of opinions. These are different factors you might want to take into consideration. Do your own homework, look into this, that, and the other. And it would just be a really nice change of pace just to say, this is what I think. This is what my opinion. These are, my own personal conclusions. And you can do with those whatever you wish. So that's what we're going to be doing in this series. And today we are going to begin with the topic that was suggested by Brandy Young 629, which was my personal approach to rituals, the Blackbird approach to rituals. So going. Let's talk about this. It always begins with purpose. The why of a ritual is of really paramount importance to me. Now, obviously, it doesn't always require deep thought in order for me to define what my purpose is, particularly if it's routine acts. The best example I can get of this, I do not have to think about my motivations or delve into those depths for why I want to bless my morning tea. I just do it. I know why I do it. It doesn't require thought. It's self-evident why that's important and why that needs to happen. And so what I personally need with the ritual is just a clear sense of purpose and why that purpose is important. And I've learned that if I have a fuzzy sense of what I'm trying to do, or if I go into ritual with kind of lackluster energy, it doesn't go well at all. I don't get the results I want. I certainly don't get a kind reception from the gods. It's very, really, kid, that's the best you were going to do. Not really what the kind of atmosphere you want to create. And that's especially true for my rituals in which I'm specifically honoring the deities that I'm close to. They are not interested in anything half-hearted or half-assed from me. It's commit. Do the thing. That's, all of those qualities that you find so troublesome to control and manage in day-to-day life. When you are in ritual, those are the same qualities that need to go full throttle. Put your all into it. And that's very much the message I've received from them over the years. And when a ritual also incorporates a spell, I need to have a crystal clear vision of what I'm going to be doing. And I need very high but controlled energy. And all of that stems from having purpose. So that's the first thing right there. The next thing is practicality. Now, if you could cast your mind back to the Harry Potter movies and when they introduced the Alistair Moody character, and it's his first class in the Defense Against the Dark Arts, and he's frightening the children to death, and he's saying, "I believe in a practical approach," and I felt that statement in my soul, and I do every time I rewatch the movie. And yes, I know that technically that wasn't the real Moody in the scene. Don't at me or anything like that. That's not really the point. It's a question of the sentiment and the sentiment of practical. We are using this information. We do not live in a laboratory. We are not theorizing on the chalkboard. This is about what we. Sorry for the glitch. Just in case that last bit cut out. We need to be effective in our magic. It has to work. And does it work is a question that's one of my personal guiding stars. I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all way of doing things because there are no one-size-fits-all witches or wizards. There's a time and place for experimentation. But when it's time to get something done, I do tend to go with doing things in a way that has repeatedly worked for me. The obvious exception is if my purpose is to practice a new skill or technique. That's a very different matter. But if it's just a matter of I want to get this done, I'm going to choose the path of least resistance and the path that's going to have the most potent impact. All right. Next thing I consider is responsiveness. The degrees of formality versus informality when I conduct ritual is greatly affected by the vibe that's in the air immediately before I get started with it. Most of the time, I have both a flowery and more elaborate, and also a simple and more direct version of a ritual inside of my head, in addition to my notes. And I have been known to adapt on the spot if what I planned just didn't really feel right in the moment and it has gone in both directions. Sometimes, I might plan to be very formal or more elaborate, and it just wasn't suitable to the occasion. It didn't feel right. And the same thing has happened when I thought this is so simple, very direct. I'm just going to do this straightforwardly, and that also didn't feel right. So I make adjustments. I could stubbornly plod along, but when I take the hint and I make changes, sometimes while in the middle of ritual, it turns out better. These nudges of intuition, they do not occur without reason. And over the years, I've really grown to trust and rely upon them. There are other aspects of my life in which I do struggle with trusting my intuition for reasons that aren't relevant to this video. But when it comes to ritual, spell work, magic, my spirituality, I absolutely rely on those nudges of intuition. They have been proven correct time and time again. So I'm just accepting this is, the universe, the gods, my ancestors, spirit guides, animal totems, whoever it is, they're putting me in this particular direction for a reason. And so I tend to cooperate. I know it's difficult to imagine a solar Leo, Scorpio moon, and Capricorn ascendant, cooperating as a default, but it actually does occur. So I want to give you some specific examples of this responsiveness. The first example I want to give you is when I work with Bridget and Lou. They really are the best example that I have of when I have kind of this in between approach. It's neither too flowery nor too simple. It's neither too formal nor too informal. And the reason being is that when I invite them into circle, the mood is generally celebratory. It's intensely creative. And while there is certainly a lot of ceremony I go through, it's done with lightheartedness. We're having fun with this. It isn't that we're not taking the moment seriously. It's just that there's no need to wring the hands or to fret about it. It's just things are going to go well because we have all come together. These deities, they are both very encouraging to work with. They're all, anytime I have them in circle, it's do the thing, try something new, discover, just go for it. And while I'm in ritual with them, I never forget the distinction between their rank and mine. They are gods. I'm a human witch, but there is a strong sense of camaraderie, well-being, and mutual concern that is present. And so, any lessons that I've needed to learn from them, it has always been done in this spirit of fun. So that's kind of my in between mode. And then it's when I work with Loki, which is a different experience. When I first began working with him, I automatically defaulted to formality. More often than not, if I'm in meditation and I sense his presence, if I'm addressing him directly, I do even to this day tend to address him as my lord. But still, he doesn't like a whole lot of formality. He doesn't take very much of that from me. He put the kibosh on that approach as a whole very early on. He set the tone, and that tone was one of closeness. Instead of wanting elaborate ceremony and all this and that. His clear message has been whether I'm in ritual, whether I'm doing divination and I ask him to come to me, or if it is meditation, dream work, whatever the modality is, his clear message has always been just talk to me. Just talk to me. We can do this directly. He is not interested in going through all of the forms. That's not what's necessary in his opinion for our interactions. Now, I cannot say that this is his usual preference for any and everyone who works with him. I don't know. His relationship with other practitioners is unique to them and unique to his purpose for why he's interacting with them. I can only report to you my experience. So I do just talk to him. I will light his favorite incense. I'll bring him tea and cinnamon scones or a whiskey and a dessert, depending on what time of day it is. But that really is as formal as it generally gets. And when I commune with him, it puts me in the same kind of headspace as I get into when I'm doing more formal ritual, but it's without going through the ceremony. It's much more personable, it's intense. Loki, for reasons of his own, chooses to meet me at my level. So this is my most relaxed mode of working with deity and mode of ritual that I ever get to. Then at the opposite end of the scale, we have Morrigan. I rarely call upon the Morrigan, and when I do, I have an overwhelmingly good reason to do so. And it's safe to say that I am at my most formal when I do work with her. In some ways, my energy is the human echo of certain aspects of her. And that's not a part of me that I need to access all that frequently. And hopefully the world does not come to a state where that is a part of me that does need to be more in the forefront, because that's not good news for anyone. And it would not exactly be upbuilding to me. Um, just hope we don't have to go there. But getting back to the point, my rituals with the Morrigan have always been very mission focused, and the manner of my reciprocation for any help she gives me has always been very clearly defined and very strictly observed. I don't let my guard down. She does not soften her sternness. The day could come when I need to work with her more closely, but it is not this day, and she and I have a truce on that matter. And the tone of our rituals together have absolutely reflected that. I mean, this is most formal, most ceremonial, very I'm in my place, you're we're it's not, we're not closing the gap on that. And that's just the way that it is. But now let's kind of talk about, the daily and then specialer occasions, and how I approach that. Daily rituals for me, they're very simple. They're no fuss. They aren't huge commitments of time. I'm not expending ridiculous amounts of money to do them, not by any means. That wouldn't be sustainable for one. I mean, and just what madness that would be to go about it that way. I am greatly guided by the energies that are associated with each day of the week. That information is actually what began to shape my practice in my early days. There are things that I do every day. There are other things that I do once a week on the appropriate day, and it helps keep it manageable for me and organized. And I need that. I need that structure. It's been very beneficial to me. And it doesn't mean that it would be universally the answer for everyone. Again, this is just what works for me. It's to start my day right, as I mentioned before, I bless my tea. It's a sweetener. It is it's a wake up juice. It is, it is you know learn how to human in a reasonable fashion, and treat the other beings around you with a modicum of decency. That is the function of my tea, and so I certainly do bless it, and I think that's a good practice for me to continue. Then I do meditate on the daily, but the focus of what my meditation is, that will vary upon the day, where my head is at, a myriad of other factors. It's really very flexible. And honestly, I think it should be. I do make offerings every day. Usually it's a piece of my breakfast, a cup of tea that's specifically prepared. If I'm doing any other kind of elaborate cooking, I would absolutely offer that as well, probably later in the day. But I always have that point of connection. I think that's important for me to maintain. And and this may not seem like ritual, but it does relate, I promise. I do keep an ear open to both current events and what's pagan communities to stay connected to the flow of the broader world, because in order to do what I do, I need to have a sense of what's the energy, what's the mood that's going on around out there. And I can't even begin to address the struggles that people face if I'm not aware of what they are. And that is something that I do, something that I make myself do. And it informs, I suppose that would be the best way to put it. It really informs a lot of my ritual work. And of course, prayer. I think prayer is extremely important. I think it matters to talk to the gods, talk to our ancestors, any other kind of spirit guides. Uh, talk to the house spirit. I generally term it the house brownie. I think it's important just to talk, to connect, to acknowledge the presence, even if it's not about necessarily having anything big to say. It's just about maintaining those relationships. I think that's important. Now, for the S spots, my lunar rituals are planned with the astrological positionings taken into account, and also by examining what aspect of my life best relates to those energy conditions. I think it would be pretty silly of me to try to work on something when it just isn't the moment for it. So I try to bend and adapt to what's actually going on. It is both a ceremonial occasion for me, and I tend to be a bit more flowery and a bit more formal when I do my SBOT rituals. And it's also more of a working occasion. I'm doing things, I'm doing spell work. There are things I want to accomplish. So when possible, I try to get a little cat nap ahead of time so that I can be fully refreshed for the ritual. If I'm doing a working on someone else's behalf, I always perform it during the suitable lunar stage for best results. Um, it's always easier doing a working on behalf of yourself just because you have all of that motivation for why you are doing it internally. And when it's someone else, even if you really, really care, it's still not the same as it is literally happening to me kind of energy. It's just not quite there. It's comparable, but it's not quite the same. So I realize that, and so that's why I time it with the right lunar stage. It's why I oftentimes, if I'm doing something for someone else, I will bring deity into the question for it rather than just trying to do it under my own power. Just because I want it to have the best chance for success. I want to try to create a good outcome for someone. And of course, this is always if they've asked. I don't generally go around deciding for people what I think they need to have happen for them. But when the occasion calls for it, I try to set the ritual and the spell up for the greatest possible chance of success. So that's just how I feel about it. Now, the age of my practice is now in the double digits. I'm pretty proud of that. But despite that fact, there it really isn't one singular lunar goddess that I work with on these occasions. Um, I don't know why. Perhaps that will change in the coming years. We'll see. It's still an adventure. We will find out. So more often than not, I'm directing my ritual when it comes to moon rituals to the great goddess. And in case you haven't heard my opinions on other videos about this, when I talk about the god and the goddess, the lord and the lady, I'm thinking about the original divine pair. I think they are not only the source of divinity, I think they are the ultimate parents of all of the pantheons that our ancestors came to know. I see them as the ultimate source. So that's where my headspace is at with that. Now for the Sabbats. My Sabbat rituals, they are purely celebratory events. I give thanks, I acknowledge the turn on the wheel, I revel in the joys of the season, I cook, I bake, I sing, I dance, light candles. If I'm in a position to have a bonfire, I absolutely do because it's fun and it's fire. And the harvest time Sabbats, that's the closest I come to working holidays in my practice, but it's still a very much fun-filled time. These times, I'm really focused on honoring the God and the goddess, but then also the deities from the ancient. I really try to focus on them as well. And it's also my personal practice on these days on the Sabbats to have nothing posted on social media that isn't pagan and that isn't uplifting. And I try to have the majority of those posts directly related to the Sabbat itself. I take a break from the news. The crazy world is still going to be there that next day, and I'm going to take a break on our holy days. I'm not going to deal with whatever nonsense insanity is going on in the world, short of a nuclear explosion. It's about the Sabbat, and that's what I want to honor, and that's what I want to really remain focused upon. And also, one of the reasons why I do this, and why I have the postings that I do on social media that I do, it's really in hopes of encouraging my brothers and sisters, honestly, to do the same, to have just one day. We're not talking about the things that everybody else is worried about. We are focused upon our holy day, what it means to us, historical information of it, magical information for it, mythos and lore, whatever people can bring to the table, even if it's just something simple as exchanging greetings on the day. Let the world see that. My dream is to have it trend on one of these sites one of these days. And because if that happens, then it becomes obvious to the wider world, hey, there's something going on here. People really mean it. Their holidays, they are keeping them holy. They are focused upon their relationship to the divine and what that holiday means to them on that day. I think that would be one of the things that could make a good impression on the rest of the world. Now let's talk about my work. I try my work almost as ritual in of itself. This channel obviously requires work. Making the pretty slides that I hope you're enjoying, that requires work. And if I did not treat all of this effort as something that's part of my spiritual practices, if I didn't, begin and end the day with a small little ceremony, just, a prayer to do things well, of a prayer hoping that things were accomplished in a good way. If I didn't do all that, I would really struggle to carry on, just because there is a lot involved. And I'm not even a major channel, and I don't have the editing skills and the cool videos and the aesthetics. They're what I happen to have. They're the things I use. I have not gone out and bought things specially for the background. You're getting a fairly raw view of things. And if it's like that for me at the low end of the scale of content creation, just imagine what it is to people who do have a lot of video editing to do, who do more elaborate things. I mean, you really have to. It has to become part of. This is how I honor the gods. This is what it means for me to practice my spirituality. That's got to be part of you, because if it isn't, I mean, good luck. So sharing educational information. Trying to be as willing as I possibly can to have discussions, being open about my own personal successes and failures. For me, this is all an act of sacred devotion. I could be doing other things. I could be practicing in a different way, but I have felt an overwhelming compulsion to do this. And so I view it as something that I'm giving back to the gods. Because ultimately, this is what I have to offer to the world. I can explain things in a straightforward fashion. That's it. That's what I have for you. I'm not afraid to demystify concepts. I'm not afraid to speak plainly. I can play my part, and I can be one of the voices that advocates for the viewpoint that our spirituality is rooted in the past, but it is not limited to it. And I can encourage people to take pride in who they are and how their spirituality shaped them. That's what I got for you. So I try to discharge that as best as I can. And then last, I want to end with touching on dream work. I make every effort to be as grounded and practical and pragmatic on this channel, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my theorizing and down the rabbit holes ideas in private. I use dream work, including preparation for it and analyzation of it, as part of a greater ritual, the ongoing, that is really focused upon discovery. I want to know how the dots connect. I want to see all these patterns that I can observe. They catch my attention. And once I notice one, I simply can't unsee it. I need to know how it's weaved into the bigger tapestry of things. It seizes my soul. And when these things happen, I have a pretty unstructured search of information on whatever's nagging away with me. It's what I think about before I do dream work. It's what I tend to wake up. It's the lens through which I analyze things. And this really activates the other side of my brain. The non-analytical part, when I'm on this, I'm trying to consume information and I'm trying to glean what my dreams are trying to tell me. That activates the non-analytical part of my brain, the part that doesn't have words, and it gives me freedom to explore and to experience, and that provides me a greater balance within my practice. And that it's not formal, it's not a customary kind of ritual as you would traditionally think of it in witchcraft circles, but the fact that it is part of my ongoing mode of being. I think that this is part of my great work and part of the greater ritual that is overarching over everything else that I do. So I hope that answers your question, Brandy, and I hope anyone else watching this, you gleaned something useful from it. Again, this is told from the perspective of my own personal opinions, based on my own experience. And the camera glitched again. So in case the last bit got cut out, this is about things that I've reasoned out for myself, and make of it what you will. But I hope it was interesting to you. Please let me know what you thought of it in the comments. And if you have any other subjects you would just kind of like to hear my own personal take on, I would love to hear from you, because this series, it's not going to be, directly tied to the season or any particular time of year. These are just my thoughts, my opinions, my experiences. And really, this series is meant to be watched by anyone at any time. So I think that is what I have for you all today. And I do have something prepared for next week. So I hope you'll come back for that. But I think I'll let you get on with your day. Bye for now.